And today, Slob, Joe Rogan is the poster child of a traitor. This man works for the deep state, he's a puppet for the most corrupt admin of all time, and his comedy sucks. Oh my god, I'd rather listen to Kash Patel sing in the shower than this man's new special. I really could. That'd be weird. I don't know why I'll be in the same shower as him. I just don't like this dude.
Is this idea that Donald Trump, was sort of, I've even heard people say he was blackmailed into this.
Yeah,
by
a
the
lot
Israelis.
of people think that.
That's not true, dude.
No?
It's just not true. I've seen the decision making up close. Again, whether you agree or disagree with our negotiation, or whether you agree or disagree with the decision to launch the campaign Epic Fury to begin with, the idea that Donald Trump is being blackmailed is crazy to me. Because again, I see the way that he makes decisions. I see the way that he processes this stuff. Like the idea that he picks up the phone with anybody and says, hey, I'm going to take orders from you. No, that's just not how Donald Trump operates.
Can you understand, though, why people would come to that conclusion, especially because of the Epstein files?
What do you mean?
Well, the Epstein files were supposed to be released, and there was a tremendous amount of resistance to those files being released, and that concerned a lot of people.
Again, say this with all candor, we absolutely screwed up the comms of the Epstein files, we just did. But do I think the reason we screwed up the comms is because we were trying to hide something? No. I think the reason we screwed up the comms of the Epstein files is one, Pam Bondi said, the client list is on my desk, right?
Well, they had binders. They were standing in front.
But those binders were largely documents that had already been released.
Vance just said, not true, dude. Not true, dude. The vice president of the United States is using dude talk. Not true, dude. You know what I mean? This is trust me, bro politics. I've told my closest friends, if y'all utter the phrase, trust me, bro, on everything, I will self-destruct. I'm over it. We are here because of the big toe, amongst others, but the big toe, he's the one who birthed. Trust me, bro. Joe Rogan turned to his massive audience, his state propaganda show, to the entire world and said, yeah, man, Trump, trust me, bro. Yeah, man. Now look where we're at. No accountability either. Rogan claiming that he is politically homeless has got to be the biggest buffoonery ever uttered this year. Here's the facts. There's been no list. No arrest, no justice for these victims. And that right there is just shameful, disgraceful. I don't even say embarrassing. That's just vile. And regarding Vance stating, oh, is Trump really being blackmailed? Come on now. That's an outrageous argument. I mean, why else? Why else are we nonsensically being dragged into this war? The timing of this Iran war was very odd as well, very coincidental. To me, the way I see it, I could be wrong here. I view it as a distraction for the Epstein files. The fact that we're continuing to stay in the most historically opposed war in United States history, look at the polls, all while Trump is being obliterated in the polls. A recent poll states that only 37% of Americans approve of the Iran war strikes, while 60% expect the war to push gasoline prices even higher over the next year. Half say the conflict simply hasn't been worth the cost. And in my opinion, there is substantiated evidence regarding Trump being blackmailed for this, but that's for another video. Yeah, that's like a docu-series right there. Here's a quick timeline for those who forgot regarding the Epstein files debacle. In February of 2025, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General at the time, announced the Phase 1 release of the Epstein files. This was that whole binders, stupid-ass performative display. I got binders full of victims. Then in late 2025, the Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, requiring broader disclosure of the Epstein-related records. Also on December 19, 2025, the DOJ released an initial batch under the new law, and the release was criticized because many of the pages were heavily redacted, and also some files were reportedly disappeared from the DOJ website before later being restored. In January of 2026, the DOJ released more than 3 million additional pages and declared that they have complied with the law. Subsequently, a lot of lawmakers claimed, hey man, significant categories of these records are still being withheld. What the hell? Then in June of this year, or July, around that time, a federal judge ordered the DOJ to release additional records or explain why they remain withheld. And then earlier this month, the New Mexico Attorney General Raul Torres accused the DOJ of withholding unredacted files needed for the state's criminal investigation into activity of the Epstein's New Mexico ranch. And mind you, Trump promised this all throughout his campaign. I'm going to release the files. The files will be released. So yeah. they do look sus. Like, if I were to ever see Vance, I don't know where I would see him, but if I were to ever see Vance, first I'll be like, dude, get off my couch. But I would say to him, how can you live with yourself knowing that you're out here protecting these pedophiles and you have multiple kids of your own? There's a special place in hell for people like you. And I guarantee that there will be no couches in this hell. You know, and for Joe Rogan, there's no stools. There's no couches, no stools to hump. So, you know, they will be forced to freaking fornicate with each other, just like that South Park episode. Anyways, you see, like, with stuff like this, like, I gotta, you know, attach some sort of, not even comedy. My comedy sucks, dude. I can't go head first into this video or into this overall timeline without feeling completely and utterly frustrated, disgusted, helpless. But man, in this video, we're going to talk about the new JD Vance appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience today. It actually dropped earlier today. This is a part 1 of part 2 video. The part 2 will come out tomorrow. I made it 2 parts because, you know, there's so much slop here. I got to sift through the slop. This is predominantly on the Epstein files and the JD Vance clip. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I truly appreciate it.
Like anything that existed from the 80s and 90s up to 2006, 2007, anything that existed that we didn't get back then was disappeared. Right. So like when people say, has what you've seen on the inside make you think that that Epstein never blackmailed people or that Epstein never engaged in broader sex trafficking? No, absolutely not. What I have seen, and I've looked at most of the files, is that there just wasn't dispositive evidence. And if that dispositive evidence ever existed, it was probably destroyed after 2006, 2007. Now, like again, in our defense, yes, was there some bitching and moaning, and was there some back and forth? Yes, but we eventually collected 6 million documents as part of the effort. The president, people say the president was forced into releasing the documents. Like, again, the idea that Donald Trump could not have killed that legislation, especially with the United States Senate, is a joke. He absolutely could have killed it. What did he do? He actually said, nope, we're going to release these files. He thought, he was annoyed by the story. He was annoyed by the Democrats accusing him of doing things bad. By the way, like, do I think there is I've never seen a single piece of credible evidence that the President of the United States engaged in wrongdoing with minors, ever. So, like, when the president says the hoax, that's what he's talking about, is this Democratic idea that he somehow was a file. It's absurd. There's no evidence for it. We find out 3 million of them are actually responsive, has something to do with the Epstein estate. We release all of them, with the exception of a few things that are like, the courts have said that we have to redact certain things or we can't release certain files. But, like, we did release all these files. Did it take longer than it should have taken? Yes. But we did release these files.
They are protecting pedophiles. Like, that's all you need to know. Also, no pushback Joe throughout the entire clip. And I listened to the beginning of the pod. There is no pushback Joe whatsoever. Again, MAGA puppet, MAGA slut. For the most part, I'm not against sluts. If you want to be a slut, go ahead and be a slut. You know what I mean? But for this type of slut, I don't take that. Joe could have pushed back so many ways. So many ways. He could have said, hey man, why was Maxwell transferred to a minimum security prison with the frickin' puppy in hand? Why? Why did Trump call this a hoax the entire time? It's a hoax. It's a hoax. Don't worry about it. Why haven't all the files been released? Why have the files that you released have been mostly redacted? Like, I see other countries like the UK out here arresting people that are on the Epstein files. Why can't we do that? I would have pushed back so much, but the only pushback that Joe Rogan does is over here just fucking pushing back his ass on Trump's meat. And ew. So I'm saying, MAGA slut. Vance also said there's no single piece of evidence. No single piece of evidence. Beating around the bush. That's all it is. Just a bushman right here, like, so full of shit. So full of it, and we all know this. As a matter of fact, Joe Rogan's own audience knows this. These are some of the comments here, some of the top liked comments. It says here, apparently if you have enough power and money, then you can get away with anything. Another one says, such BS, all politicians are disgusting. Holy beat around the bush, Batman says here. Damage control, yes, this is all obviously damage control. Dude's too full of shit. We know this. They're actively protecting pedophiles. We know this.
People say Donald Trump's blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein. Who was the guy who narked on Epstein to the Palm Beach police? That's in the Epstein files.
Right.
It was Donald Trump.
He also kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago.
He kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. It's just, again,
well, it's obvious that Epstein was a sick man.
Yes, but if people want to say we mishandled the Epstein release, guilty. We did mishandle, especially the communications of it.
What do you think should have been done?
I think that we should have just dropped everything at the very beginning. And obviously it takes a little time to review the stuff, to find the stuff, to redact things where you have victims and so forth. But we should have just done it as quickly as possible.
But some of the stuff that was redacted, some of the names that were redacted weren't victims.
So, yeah, I've looked into this, and my understanding of this, having looked at a lot of this, but not all of it, is that it is sometimes hard to draw a distinction between victim and co-conspirator. Some of the people who were alleged victims were also alleged co-conspirators, and so what DOJ tried to do was kind of make that judgment as best they could and release as much as possible.
So it's not – there's some sort of an operation that was going on.
There is a story there, and, I will go to my deathbed believing there's a story there, but I can't prove it. And I promise you there's not some document that at least I'm hiding.
I hate this argument, with a passion. I really do. He kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. Why would he do that? Man was also best friends with the man for a decade. What are we talking about? Trump was actually on Epstein's planes numerous times. This is all factually reported by multiple different outlets, credible outlets, mind you. Trump's name was also referenced in the Epstein files that were released thousands of times. This New York Times article states that his name was referenced 5,300 times. Dude, I've seen much more than that, a lot more than that, 20,000, even much more. Trump is the main character of the Epstein files. He's the Timothée Chalamet of a new movie career. This is it. The Epstein files starring Donald J. Trump coming to it's not coming anywhere near you. JD Vance also said in that clip, I can't prove it, but I promise you I'm not hiding anything. I promise. Again, trust me, bro, politics. It's insane. It's tiring. It's exhausting. But here's another clip.
Look, he clearly had connections to the highest levels of American intelligence. He clearly had connections to the highest levels of Israeli intelligence. In fact, one of the interesting things the Epstein saga reveals about, and I try to make this point, is one of the reasons why I'm always careful, as much as I know, Prime Minister Netanyahu, not a particularly popular person in the United States of America right now, Epstein seemed to be connected to the elements of the Israeli deep state that were left of center. I've always found that fascinating. It wasn't like he was super connected to the right of center of Israeli politics. America, he was connected across the board. He had Republican friends, he had Democratic friends. He had much deeper connections to the Israeli left of center than right of center. I don't know what that means.
He was hanging out with Steve Bannon and Noam Chomsky.
Exactly. He had, again, in America, he had friends across the political spectrum in a way he didn't necessarily have in Israel.
I'm exhausted. I really am. I'm done, dude. Distraction ploy, damage control. Joe Rogan literally got the call. When I say that it's a state propaganda show, this is clearly it. Joe doesn't choose his own guests anymore. They choose it for him. He has no control over his show. That's how cucked he is. A MAGA slut. Back in the past, how Joe Rogan got big, with open-ended conversations. He always tried to see both sides of the spectrum. Nowadays, it's one side and one side only on any subject that has, that is teetering around the Trump admin since 2024. Again, MAGA puppet, MAGA slut. But at least people are starting to finally figure out, but it's not enough. It's not. Joe Rogan's going to go down. He's going to go down in not only the wrong side of history, but he's going to be looked upon 50, 100 years from now as a guy who outright protected these pedophiles and was the puppet for the most corrupt admin of all time. Oh my goodness. And all for what? Wealth. Money. Screw this guy, dude. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Tomorrow will be part 2 on this video. I'll see you then. Peace, y'all.